Well, hello, Nita Church friends. I hope 2026 is off to a good start and that you are growing in the grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ. As a family of churches, we are seeking to start 30 churches in the next 10 years in New England. Now, toward that end, we are focusing on three areas of ministry: prayer, training, and partnerships for planting. All three areas of ministry are vital. But we are focusing on prayer in 2026 as the foundation of this vision. Unless the Lord builds the house, we labor in vain. Now, we are encouraging NITA churches to consider adopting the New England Revival Covenant as a guide for prayer. A growing number of Christian churches across denominational lines in New England are joining this prayer movement. It calls individuals and churches to daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly rhythms of prayer for revival in New England. Now, about that word revival, that word may make some of you very excited. It may make others of you a little nervous. At the NITA Pastors Prayer Retreat that took place last week at Camp Spofford, I asked a group of pastors what words first came to mind when they heard the word revival. And they said things like spirit, life, big tent, weird uncle. Lots of different things come to mind when we hear the word revival because we've had lots of different experiences associated with that word. The New England Revival Covenant helpfully differentiates between revival and revivalism. Revival is what God does to renew His church with spiritual life. Revivalism is what people do to attempt to conjure up revival, which leads to hype and to spin. And sometimes in our reactions against revivalism, I fear we throw out the hopes for revival right along with revivalism. Which is why I found Ray Ortlund Jr.'s book, When God Comes to Church, a biblical model for revival today, so very helpful in giving us a proper perspective and expectation for revival. Now, this book is out of print, unfortunately, but Ray graciously gave permission to us to distribute a digital copy of the book to all the pastors who attended the Pastors Prayer Retreat. And in the first pages of his book, in the preface, Ray defines revival this way: revival is a season in the life of the church when God causes the normal ministries of the gospel to surge forward with extraordinary spiritual power. Revival is seasonal, not perennial. God causes it, we do not. It is the normal ministry of the gospel, not something eccentric or even different from what the church is always charged to do. What sets revival apart is simply that our usual efforts greatly accelerate in their spiritual effects. And then he goes on later in the preface to say this: my ultimate aim is to persuade you that revival is a valid biblical expectation, so that you join me in praying that God would rend the heavens and come down in our generation. We cannot trigger revival, but we can turn away from all that clogs up God's work. We can devote ourselves to the normal ministry of the gospel in such a way that we give Him no reason not to empower it mightily. Above all, I want you to be encouraged in God. We must never give up and give in. He is able. So to help us have a proper view and expectation of revival in our day, while at the same time guarding against revivalism, I'm going to share a few thoughts each month with you all from Ray's book. Next month, we're going to share some thoughts from chapter 1, God Comes Down to Us. I also want to make you aware of one other very helpful resource as you consider praying for revival in 2026. The people behind the New England Revival Covenant have written a weekly prayer guide that can be used in worship services and also in individual prayer throughout the week. As people follow along with this weekly prayer guide, it's a tangible way that people can join other followers of Jesus across New England in praying together for revival. And so I pray you'll consider following this resource. I'll finish up today with an invitation from the closing words of Ray Ortlund's introduction in his book, When God Comes to Church. Ray invites us this way. He says, "My plea comes down to this. Let's not neglect the revival dimension in our churches. It is biblical. It is right. It is of God. Let's stop being so timid. Let's trust God so much that we follow his word without qualifying it to death. None of us has long to live. Why not do something boldly radical before you die? Follow God's word fully. Don't censor it. Don't whittle it down to the narrow confines of your comfort zones. Trust that God is wise in all his word and ways. Pray for more of him than you've ever had before, and then go beyond praying. Expect him to show himself near to you in new ways that will delight you and honor his name. Venture your whole personal fulfillment on God, withholding nothing. He will be honored, and you will be amply rewarded." I look forward to praying with you in the month ahead. God's best to you, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.